Alright, so after measuring that slot going down the car on these cars, we've noticed that we've got about a decent 1.5 inch space. So what I've got here is about 6 feet of square tubing. It is 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches, so it's the same all around, and it's a 1/4 inch thick wall, so it's going to take a fair bit to bend this. Alright, so after measuring, I determined that I needed 59 inches. 59 inches here. So this is it was roughly 6 feet. So 59 inches cut on a 90 degree, or 45 degree cut. So then I've got this leg here left over that matches up to that 45. So 45, and then it bends. So the front part of the frame under the car, this is going to be actually too long, but that's always good. You don't want too short, obviously. So I will put this up in place, then determine how long this piece needs to be, then pull it down and weld the two together. Alright, so I've determined the angle on the end there, and I've welded it all together. So I will need to cap the ends, otherwise they will fill full of water and it will rust from the inside out. So I will do that. Alright, so I'm prepping it so that I can weld this to the car. Now, one of the easiest ways to get this attached to the car here is going to be to spot weld it to the floor. So whenever you don't have to weld upside down, don't weld upside down. So what we're doing here is underneath the car, following where it's going to go, we've drilled holes here. Now we can't go all the way to the back, but we go pretty close. That's the last hole right there is the last hole, and that's almost all the way at the back there. So that's pretty good. We got them all the way up forward and then going there. So if we look inside the car here, pulled the seat out, pulled the carpet up, pulled it back. That is odd. We've got a bolt stuck to the carpet there. A rusty bolt. Gross. So anyways, from the inside here you can see all these holes that I've drilled. Now I gotta push the carpet back more over that way, so I can get the, there's 3 more up here. And going back, this is as far as we've been able to go back, because drilling in right down in here, it's 2 layers of steel, so you'll never be able to actually get right at it to weld the thing. You'll only be plugging a hole on this side and plugging a hole on the other. Well, you won't even be able to plug the hole on the other side. So there's no point in doing that, but there's other ways that we can tie it in at the back, and doing these spot welds will add a ton of strength to this. This thing will not be falling off, that's for sure, and it'll make it so that it is much more than what we actually need for this to be helping the car. So one thing to note, the size of the holes I've drilled is 3/8. Alright, just to show us so that nobody tries to say I didn't, the ends are capped. Both ends are capped. Now, something to note is that the surface of this that goes against the car body, you'll want it flat. So smooth it up here. Everywhere that you welded it or there's a burr, you want it flat. That way there's nothing causing this to hang down just a little bit, you know, and make it a little bit of a gap. So now we'll move on. Alright, so this is almost completed. It needs to be sprayed with some weld through primer and then clamped up to the car and welded in. So let's go over what we've got. So the measurement of this actually changed a little bit. It ended up both that and the leg here were slightly too long. So I'll show the measurement here. So it is pretty much exactly 85 no, 58, sorry, 58.5 inches. So that's the whole length of it from the end to this end. And it's not quite a 45, it's kind of, you got to put it into the car and then basically just kind of tweak it to the direction it wants, but it is completely flat down on the floor. It's completely flat. It's not super far from a 45 though. Okay, and the leg here is about 9 3/4. Yeah, so 9 3/4 of an inch long. Now let's go over what we've done here. So matching up to the front frame on the car, this is a piece of angle iron that is about 3/16 inch thick angle iron. It's got these windows I've put into it. These are for welding, as well as down the side here is for welding. Down there, along here, this goes on the actual bottom where a lot of people unfortunately jack up the car and then they bend in that part. So I'll show this when it's in the car so it makes more sense. So what this is here is, so it's a 2-inch by 3-inch angle iron. So 2-inch angle iron with a 3-inch leg. And then it's cut on an angle here so it matches up the on the frame of the car. I'll show that. And then what I've done here is to cover the entire part of the underside of the frame. I've taken the leg from the angle iron, some extra angle iron. I've cut just the leg, so it's just a 3-inch piece. Put it on here, matched it up while it was underneath the car, and then tacked it in and then fully welded it. So that's the other big thing, is any welding at all you want to do while it's not on the car until you're ready with the whole piece to clamp it up there and weld it in. The reason being is because welding upside down is pretty difficult, and it's very difficult to get a good penetration. Last thing you want is for this big huge hunk of steel to fall off while you're driving because it wasn't welded on there good enough. So at the end here, we've got two pieces of 3/8 inch plate here, and they're roughly 6 inches long, and about 1.5 inches from the end is where they start. Matches up to 7 inches exactly there at the end. So now if I turn this over, so now this is the side that's going to go up against the car, go straight to the bottom of the body. So now at the rear of the car, this is something you got to do, is it actually raises up a little bit. So what I've done is I've taken a Morse 3/8 steel plate, and I've had to carve this out so that it fits here. So anyways, this is 9 1/4 inches long, 9 1/4, and you can see where it starts down here, about 1 1/8 inches. It'd probably be 1 inch would be fine. And then it is 2 inches wide, and it gets a little bit skinnier. So it's 1 3/4 here now, and then it's about 1 inch even. Oh, actually, it's about 1 1/4 inches thick here, and that is because the shape of the car underneath it needs to be that way. It needs to be carved out there. So pretty simple. I'm gonna hit it with some weld through primer, and then it'll get installed on the car probably tomorrow. I ran out of time to do it. This is basically gonna keep this T-top car very straight and rigid. I still gotta make another one for the other side. Of course, I'm not gonna do just one side, it's gotta be both. And the other side is actually a little bit different, I've noticed. It's not exactly the same, but I think it's fairly close. There's gonna be a little bit of tweaking, massaging to do. So some measurements will be different. Anyways, that is it. Alright, so here we are under the car, showing this. So this is the angle iron here. We've got it right welded to the subframe here, so that's pretty rock hard on there. And then we're coming over here with the tube. So we've got it welded right there to the floor of the car. Coming down, we got welded again to the floor of the car. On the other side, I'll show you, we've got weld to the pinch welds. So the pinch weld can be kind of difficult to weld, it's pretty thin. So we look under here, so to the rear subframe there, we've got lots of weld, front and rear, both sides of it. Everything's all fully welded, it's not going anywhere. So coming up the pinch weld here, so I found with these ground effects on here, it can be pretty difficult to weld. So drilling a hole and then doing a plug weld can be difficult. So I found that it was easier just to polish off some of the paint and then weld it completely just like I did with the floor. So I've done that in multiple spots here. You can see the plug welds filled in right there. And like I said, we welded all around all this before when it wasn't on the car, so because otherwise it'd be pretty much impossible to do it now. And like you can see, nice smooth weld going all the way down here. It's not going anywhere. Under it, all welded. Up in here, all welded. Up in here, other side. It's not going anywhere. So next, I'll have to hit this with probably some black rocker guard. Some of that nice thick rubbery coating to protect it, let it cure. But first of all, I'm gonna make the other side and get that all welded in. And then when I go to rocker guard, I'll just do it all at once. All right, so here we have the passenger side. So this is a bit different because the floor on the passenger side is actually raised at the front here. So I had to step it up a bit, and I'm going to show you a much easier way than what I did. It will be much simpler, less welding, a little bit less weight for sure. So anyways, first let's get into it here. The length of it going this way is 57.5, well just over 57.5, but if you did 57.5 it would be fine. So now going off of it on a 45, we've got 9.5. So see that, 9.5. Okay, and then we've done the same angle iron here. So we've done the same angle iron here. The way the frame goes, and keep in mind these cars are like 30 years old plus, so not everything is going to be exactly how it was when it left the showroom. There may be some dents or maybe some stuff that isn't exactly right, okay? So anyways, we ended up tucking the end here. Once we got up into place, jacked into place, we noticed that there was a big gap at the back here, so we ended up cutting and then just hammering it inward, and then it seals up that gap. And we put windows in again, so welding windows. So anyways, everything's tight against the frame there, and then this covers basically the whole section of the actual subframe right there, so we can fully weld it to it. So that will be very good. The angle in between here, we take our square here, so it's a little bit tighter than the 90. You see the gap in there. So what you're going to need to do is basically start with the bottom. It's basically the same as the other side. I believe it's slightly shorter. Make your 45 cut and tack weld it into a 90, and then match it up to the car and just kind of see where it needs to be, because not every car is going to be the same. So anyways, the rear here is basically exactly the same as the other one. We have got our plate that starts at 1 1/4 inches. We've got plate here, and it's 13 3/4 of an inch long of plate here, and it's I believe that's 3/8 plate. It's fairly thick. And then we've got our two pieces right here that match up at the end, and they are so 6 inches. Now these pieces, you're going to need to tack weld them into place onto here once you've got the whole bar jacked up into place. So this is actually one of the last steps that you're going to do, is once you've got that gap there and you pull this tight against the pinch weld, then you'll tap these two plates into place with a hammer till they're tight, and then tack weld them to this, then drop the whole frame here and then fully weld them. So basically everything you're basically tack welding while it's up into place on the car, then drop it out of the car and then fully weld it. It absolutely sucks to have to weld stuff while it's on the car. So let's talk about this now. So this, I went and got 1 inch by 2 inch steel here because I knew that it needed to come up here, but I just wasn't sure how much. So I kind of if I had looked at it better, I would have probably realized and saved myself a bunch of time. But I'll just explain it to you guys how you can do this. So first off, let's go with the so it matches the same 45 cuts as the bottom part. So it is it measures to be, so it is about 28 inches long that way, and then it's not very long up here. We've only got about it's about 5 inches, yeah, about 5 inches long. And then that's where it gets a little bit tricky here, is these angles here. You can see it's quite an angle, it's quite aggressive, and that's something with your car you'll just have to see exactly how aggressive you need it. And you're going to want to play around with this a fair bit. You're going to be putting this up there, bring it back down, putting it up, bring it back down several times before you find out that angle exactly. This angle follows the shape of the frame underneath the car. So as you can see, yeah, so it's fairly aggressive as well, and it's not so pretty here, but you can make yours nice. I figured out the angles and whatnot, so it's not super pretty. So anyways, let's go about the easier way that you can do this part. All right, so basically what you need for this step up right here, and you'll notice that this is lower, so you need basically 1.5 inches. So if you do 1.5 inches, same as the bottom, put it on top and make the same thing, you're going to tuck this slightly inward, so put it inward a bit. So make sure that it's overlapping a little bit over here. It's a little bit too far over. So this part where it goes up against the body of the car is it's got a gap, so it'll fit because the body of the car slopes downward to the pinch weld. So if you're too close, it'll never fit up properly. So you can use 1.5 inches, and then from the end here, so that would be, it's gonna be about 9.5. 9.5 will be fine. Then what you could do is take some plate and just cut windows into it. So go 1.5 inches, say 1/4 inch plate, cut windows into it, and then just weld a strip along the top here. And then you can use the same as the bottom here, weld that strip of flat bar on top, and you can skip all the rest of this stuff. So it'll be much easier. So just to show you guys what I did here so that I would make this work properly was, after I did the 1 by 2 inch, then I plated it with 2 inch wide 1/4 inch thick flat bar, and then plated the whole thing. And now you can see it sits a little bit lower on this one and then a little bit lower on that, so that there's windows. It's fully welded from both sides, top and bottom, and the windows are welded. And we go around here and we got the same. and other side is the same. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone. Fairly simple. And once again, this is basically the same as the other side. Got some pretty fat welds there. So I'll show you once it's welded into the car. Alright, so I just want to quickly show everybody what it actually looks like installing these. And you're going to have to do whatever system works best for you, but I've got two ball jacks, a floor jack, and I've got an extra ball jack here ready to use. It's not very easy to install these. You got to go up in multiple points. The holes in the floor are going to tell you where you need to lift up more. Getting everything in place. You're going to notice too that like I said before, these cars are 30 plus years old. Not everything is in perfect condition, and up here the floor has actually been pushed up, so I'm gonna have to take a piece of wood and hammer this down flat, and then I'll be able to get those spot welds in. And then other places, like you're gonna notice, like you haven't jacked it up quite enough. Like right here, there's quite a gap there, and it's not snug to the floor. So that's why there's multiple jacks, and it's quite a slow process. You don't want to solidly weld anything right, like as soon as you start. It's going to be basically just going around, and once you've got a point that's where it needs to be, and the other things are close enough, then you weld a little bit of it, and then you go around once it's holding somewhere, and you'll do a little bit here, a little bit there, and just go back and forth until you've actually got it all solidly welded and it's in the correct position. So I just want to show you guys something here. Just like I was saying, these cars are 30 plus years old and stuff happens to them in that time. I just noticed here when I was doing these spot welds is if you can see this side of the floor is all pushed up. Something's hit it from the bottom at one time. And you can actually see in between the pinch welds here. So anyways, I'll show you very quickly how to fix this. It's actually not that difficult. So first off, you're going to need a hammer. And second, you need a block of wood. The block of wood is going to evenly distribute the blows from the hammer. So basically, you just stand it up on end, and you're going to give it a decent hit, but you're not going to, like, you know, you're not going to go to town on it. And you'll just go hit here, 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 all around it, and you're just going to flatten it all down nicely. And you'll notice that when you're done, it doesn't look like you've hit it with a hammer. It just looks like it's been pushed back down. So just thought I'd show you guys that. Oh, and then I'll have to hit it with some seam sealer and stuff like that, how it used to be. Alright, so it's all welded in. Let's take a quick look. The jack is still in place, but it's not needed. So in here, you can see we redid a bunch of the stuff, welded it all. Underneath, see up here, all welded in. We've gone to the pinch weld here. This is basically the same as the other side. On there, all welded, all up in there. Now we go under the car. All right, under the car here. It's all looking good. It's just got a primer on it. It's a weld through primer, and later on it will get undercoated. I may need to make some attachment tabs to it in places for the exhaust.
so that concludes the strengthening of this F-body. So the Wonder Bar is all fully installed, as you guys saw. We've got our upper tower bar. This is called a 4-point, and this is what I've always liked these. You see these on some newer muscle cars. Sometimes they have these. A little bit different. The traditional is usually just from the tower across the other tower, but if you link it to the firewall, it adds quite a bit more. So it's quite nice. I like it, and it just adds a nice look to it. I have not given a whole lot of measurements for this because depending on what your car has, like if you have a tune port injection, this probably won't fit. So it's tough to say really. And like, I mean, I'm gonna change that plenum. I'm gonna remove that plenum, and I know that I can fit up to a 15-inch air cleaner, standard air cleaner. I remember before on these cars that they have to be like a low profile one, and I haven't found one yet. Otherwise I would show you guys the installation of that.